Hi guys, my name is Reem, and today's video is going to be all about the process of requesting letters of recommendations for med school applications and a little bit of background about me. So I actually applied last year, June 2019-2020 cycle, and so I did, have to go through this process, and I will be starting med school this upcoming June. Yeah, so I got accepted total into 4 schools, and I feel like I really want to give back to the pre-med community out there, because I know when I was going through it, I went onto YouTube and I looked for resources and advice, and it's like, why not share my experience and hopefully inspire others in the process. First thing I'll start off by saying is that you want to get your letters from people that really know you. They've seen you grow, they've known you for a while, and they've seen you overcome challenges and at your best, basically. They've seen you shine, and they can write that on paper and get that across on paper. So you want, number one, somebody that's seen you shine and do amazing. Number two, someone that has known you for a while and can give plenty of examples of ways you've excelled in a specific area, or done really great things for your community, whatever. Number three, you want them to be the type that care about you. They have to care about you, and they have to actually want to see you succeed and put in the effort into writing you a stellar letter. And so it is not easy to find people that have that meet all three of those criteria, but it is possible. And so I recommend that if you are starting early your pre-med journey, your pre-med, I recommend really start thinking about this from freshman year. Think about the relationships you're forming with people. Think about the classes that really, the topics that really set your heart on fire, and you really, say you really love medical ethics class that you're taking. That's just an example for me. I really love that class, but I never formed a really good relationship with the professor and did not keep in touch throughout the years. So I did not feel comfortable at the end of the day asking them for a letter, because that relationship kind of just, in college you have many professors and you don't really get to know each and every one of them. So if you have a class that you feel like you excelled in, you did really well in, you really enjoyed it, get to know your professor throughout that time and keep in touch with them. Keep them updated about what you're doing, because eventually you will want to ask them for a letter. Another thing that I want to bring up is that the people you ask for letters, they do not all have to be science professors. They don't have to be professors. It does depend on the medical schools that you are applying to. Obviously, make a list of those schools, look at what they're requiring from letter writers, and what type of letter writers they want to have letters from. So for me, some schools I applied to wanted a minimum of 2 science or STEM professors letters. Some did not require that specifically. Some required the science letter, science professor letters, and also a physician letter. And physician letter is tricky too, because some schools, if you apply both MD and DO schools, some DO schools want only letter from a DO. Some will say that they don't mind having a letter from an MD, but eventually will want to show proof that you shadowed a DO, at least if you get accepted. There's some schools that say that they want they will accept like either an MD or DO letter, but really prefer a DO letter. I would take that as they want a DO letter. But anyway, so you have to do your research beforehand. Shadowing, forming those relationships all takes time, and so start working on that like right off the bat once you figure out I'm pre-med and in a couple of years I want to apply to med school. One question I think is important to answer is, when do you ask for these letters? So personally, I applied first week of June. So I knew that, you know, I was planning on applying that early, and I knew that that it would not be that quick of a process to get the letters submitted, and it was going to take some time. So what I did was I started asking my professors, I'm going to say around March. Yeah, I officially asked my professors around March. I asked everyone else, so like the physician that I got a letter from, my supervisors for the volunteer positions I had, I asked them for letters around that time too. And I know some of you might be like, oh well, March is really early, like you still have April, May, even June to focus on letters, you know. I just wanted to get it out of the way. I did not want letters to be the reason that my application was not complete. So I just was very prepared and made sure to ask in March. And I will say that even though I asked that early, it's still gonna happen where letters take time to be written, especially like good, well-written ones. And you want them to take that time to really put in a lot of effort and you know, do a good job writing your letter. So I will say that like 2 of my letters were not complete until June. So even though I asked really early, they still were not complete until June. So just like imagine you're asking your letter writers in June and you don't, you know, get a response or a letter back until like July or August, and that already, or even September, that already puts you at a huge disadvantage to other applicants. And so I know some schools won't even review your application without those letters. So you don't want to put yourself in that position. People are really, really busy, especially in like April, May time, because it's, you know, the semester is wrapping up. So that's for professors, and then like, you know, asking a physician, they're always really busy. So asking a physician for a letter, you want to do it ahead of time. You don't want to inconvenience them and make them feel under this time strain. Hey guys, it's Reem from the future. So I'm basically editing the video that you're watching right now, and I forgot to mention something. I realized I forgot to mention something. And that is, how do you ask? I don't even know like why I forgot this, but anyways, how do you ask? Like, what do you say to a professor or a physician or whoever you're asking a letter from? What do you ask them? And basically, I would say something along the lines of, would you do the honor? I would be honored to receive a letter of recommendation from you. Would you be able to write me a strong letter for my med school application? So this way, you're telling them that you really value them, and that, you know, you can even say more things like, you know, I really enjoyed your class. Obviously, this all has to be genuine. So something genuine. Say something genuine about why you think they would be a perfect letter writer for you. And then say, you know, that this would be a privilege and an honor to receive a letter from them. And the main thing is to really emphasize if they could write you a strong letter of recommendation. And the reason I say that is because some people might write you a letter, but it's not the letter you want. And it's not a strong letter, and it's not good for med schools, and you don't want that. So you want to make it very clear that you want a good letter from them, a strong letter. And just, you know, tell them like why you're choosing them and why you really value their input and their insight. And you could even say something like, I really, you know, I have gotten to know you so well over the years, and I think you've gotten to know me really well, and it's been very challenging couple of years, and I think you've seen me through the ups and downs of it all, and I was wondering if you could write me a very good, strong letter of recommendation for med school. And then I would give them like a time frame that you want it to be done by, ideally. And the way I framed this was, instead of being like, I want this done by this time, I would say something like the application opens in June, or late May, like whatever I wanted the letter complete. I would say the application opens in June, and I'm hoping to have all of my materials ready to submit by then. First 2 weeks of June. So obviously don't lie. I wasn't lying because AMCAS did open in June. But yeah, just kind of give them a general time frame, and then ask them if they think, if they do say yes, I would love to write you a letter. Then ask them if that's enough time for them. And most will say, especially I was asking in March, most will say, oh yeah, that's definitely enough time. And then just wait. Give them weeks to think it over, work it through, and then don't bug them about it. When it comes time to like near that time when you were hoping to receive the letter from them, just be very polite about it. Like remind them, ask them how's it going. But sorry, my Siri keeps turning on my computer and I don't know how to stop it. Stop. Anyways, so just another reminder, like these people are very busy people that you're asking these letters from, and you want to respect their time and don't want to be annoying to them. So don't be annoying, be polite, be respectful, show them how much of an honor and a privilege it is for them to be writing you a letter, for you to be receiving a letter from them, I mean, and be smart about it, ask early, and yeah, good luck. Alright, so I'm gonna now finally talk about who I asked for my letters personally. So I asked 2 professors for my letters. So first go over the professors, like STEM field people. First was my neuroscience and scanning electron microscopy professor. He was a really good person to ask for a letter because I had known him for 4 years. He had seen me in multiple different capacities, work in different capacities, so he had seen me as a lab technician, working. I actually took care of some of his experimental animals, so he had seen me in that role. He was my neuroscience, introduction to neuroscience professor. He was my scanning electron microscopy professor. So he had seen me as a student and what my work ethic was like, what my academia life was like. And then he was also the PreMed Advisor at my university. And interesting story, I actually reestablished the PreMed Club at my university. It had been frozen, dead, non-existent for a year, and I, with his guidance and mentorship, reestablished that club, and with the help, obviously, of other leaders at my school. And so he had seen me in that leadership capacity, too. So I just, I had known him for the 4 years. I just worked really hard to keep my relationship with him solid and good. He was pretty tough on me, I'm not gonna lie. It was not easy. He's a tough professor and tough mentor. I'm gonna have to say it's tough love. But anyway, so I maintained a good relationship with him and was finally able to ask him for a letter of recommendation for med school, which I honestly highly valued because he could speak to so many of the different aspects of my application and had seen me in so many different roles. So the second professor I asked, so she was my cell and molecular biology professor, and she also was my research advisor, my mentor. So I worked in her lab studying C. elegans. I completed a senior thesis, so I worked on a project, my own project, for 2 years in her lab. So she had seen me as a student, a cell molecular student, and as a scientist and as a researcher and as her own research student. So again, she had seen me in multiple different roles and could speak to my skills as a researcher, my skills as a student, and I had really gotten her really involved in my pre-med journey as well. She was like really great support system to me along the way, and yeah, so again, you want to pick people that care about you and know your story, and she definitely was one of those people. Alright, so next comes the topic of choosing a physician to ask for a letter of recommendation. So I shadowed quite a few physicians throughout my pre-med journey. I shadowed like OBGYN that I really didn't form that great of a relationship with. I didn't really get to know him. He didn't know anything about me besides the fact I was like naive freshman pre-med at the time. But anyways, it was my first shadowing experience. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But he did not know me. I also shadowed a oncologist. I shadowed a physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor. And what else? I feel like I'm missing something. Well, I worked for a lot of doctors in the ER as well as a scribe, so I got to know a lot of ER emergency doctors. But anyways, I did shadow a geriatrics physician. She actually is residency was in family medicine and then did a fellowship in geriatrics. But I just loved that experience. That was my most impactful shadowing experience because I got to see, through watching her work, I got to see like the type of physician that I want to be one day. Like, she encapsulates like everything that I hope and aspire to be like half of, basically. Like, she was such a great mentor, her character is just so beautiful, the way she connects with patients and just her personality, it just matched with mine, and I knew that she genuinely cared about my pre-med journey. She would, ask me how things were going, and, I knew that she would be a good person to ask for a letter because I knew that she believed in me and would take the time to write a good letter. Alright, so my fourth letter was actually from someone who's not in the STEM field or medicine, and that was my supervisor for the alternative spring break programs at my university. I was really involved in alternative spring break for years, like at least for 3 years actually. I site-led 2 trips to 2 different locations. And I also eventually became alternative spring break student coordinator for my university. So this person had seen me as a leader, as a student leader, and she had also seen me as a leader and a teacher while I was coordinator. So I had the opportunity to put on these workshops and facilitate these workshops for site leaders that were going to be embarking on these trips. So kind of went full circle with that experience, and she got to see me do that. She was just amazing mentor. She actually helped me. She went over my activities section of the primary application and helped kind of edit those, which I will talk about in a future video. Alright, and my fifth person that I asked for a letter from was the supervisor, like the program coordinator for 2 different programs at a local hospital that I was very involved in for the last 2 years of college. So that was the Hospital Elder Life program and the No One Dies Alone program. So they were both run by the same person. Very sweet person, really awesome, compassionate woman, and I asked her for a letter, and yeah. So she had seen me in the role of a volunteer as well as a leader, because I did end up gaining some leadership role as in the Hospital Elder Life program. I started actually training new volunteers and holding these training one-on-one, and then also holding these big meetings, orientation meetings for incoming volunteers. So she had seen me in 2 different roles there and could speak to my compassion, my empathy, my dedication to the program, to the programs, 2 programs. So yeah, thankfully it all worked out really well. It's something I'm gonna say you have to start thinking about right off the bat when you know you're pre-med. You have to work actively to form meaningful connections with people. If I was to go back 8 years or 5 years to 6 years. If I was to go back 6 years to when I was applying for college, totally different mindset. I did not form close relationships with any of my teachers in high school or coaches, whatever. I did not form close relationships with them because I did not value that. I did not know their importance and that you would need... Oh my god! There was a chipmunk. A chipmunk just came from under the deck. Oh my gosh, that was so scary, guys. It was so cute. But it just like hopped out from under there. And I think I scared it more than it scared me. Aw. I'm sorry, little guy. I promise I don't bite. Yeah, but anyways, I hope you found this video really helpful, and if I left anything out, feel free to comment your questions down below, and I will promise that I'll get around to them. Again, this is something I really feel passionate about, and I hope that this helped you out. Good luck.